There are well over 1,000 residents of Thurston County who have no roof over their head every night. They are sleeping in doorways, wooded areas, and places without basic necessities for human survival. So it's kind of a two-part question. When you hear this fact, how does this make you feel personally? First question. And what actions will you take to decrease homelessness in your first term as an Olympia City Council member or returning City Council member? Mm-hmm. Would you like to start?
Yeah, sure thing. So how does it make me feel personally? Well, it makes me feel extremely discontent. I live in downtown. I've lived and worked here for a long time, and whenever I pass by someone that is houseless, I don't feel good about it. I wonder what current efforts can be done, and as a whole, as a collective, and also what can I do in the moment. And then the second question was, could you repeat the second question?
Sure. What actions will you take to decrease homelessness in your term as Olympia City Council?
Yeah, absolutely. One, I think keeping the conversation alive, though it seems like it wouldn't take any effort to do that, because everyone has some sort of opinion on our houseless community members, but really understanding and letting folks know that it's not an either or. It's not, for instance, our small business community versus our houseless community members. It's really both. I really believe that we can have a human approach to our houseless community members and then also do right by our small businesses, just as an example. I really believe in housing first, and then in a different variety of housing types as well, understanding that people have different needs to be met, and then also wraparound services. I'm really excited about the scattered site program that the city is launching. So, and that's something that you can find online on the city's website, so I won't say too much about that. But we need to find more spaces that we can provide a shelter and permanent sustainable housing for folks. And until then, we need to make sure that it's safe for people to car camp or be where they're at. And how do we deliver services to them and handle disputes with property owners, for example. And that's what the scattered site program serves to do.
I'm sorry for being late.
Oh, that's okay. So the question is, there are well over 1,000 residents of Thurston County who have no roof over their head every night. They are sleeping in doorways, wooded areas, and places without basic necessities for human survival. So two-part question. When you hear this, how does this make you feel personally? And what actions will you take to decrease homelessness in your first term as Olympia City Council member?
Okay, well, as far as how it makes me feel personally, I mean, I'm outraged about it. It's like it's really a crime against humanity, and we live in a state with two people who are worth more than $100 billion. And here we are with 1,000 people who are homeless in about a 50,000 person town. That's just seems unheard of in the richest country the world's ever seen. And so, I mean, with all that in mind, I really think that we need to just change it up, and we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. Plus, I've worked with homeless in the past in different capacities over the years, and you get to know people, and and over more than a decade of interactions, you see people rise and fall, and you see, unfortunately, you see people that pass away. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very, it's a huge issue, personally. And I'm also feel like slightly, this is just another note. I feel like sometimes I'm close, we're all working people are like 2 paychecks away from being homeless. One disaster, one medical emergency, all these sort of things. We're really close to being in that situation. Just a little bit of bad luck, and you're there. So it really bothers me. So, and then as far as what to do, well, I think
Thank you.
treat it as an emergency. And I think that that's never quite been fully succeeded at being done. So I think we need to treat it as an emergency that it is. We need to put people in houses. That's like the primary thing. It's like rapid rehousing. That's, to me, the most important of the issues, and that we will be able to do that if we say, hey, this is an all hands on deck sort of issue.
Thank you.
It makes my heart hurt. Outrage is a good word as well. Anyone who knows me knows I'm an emotional person, and the first few years that I was on council, it was hard for me to have these conversations without weeping through my words. It's been phenomenal to see the city of Olympia shift in the last few years. I think those numbers are easily double. When because couch surfing isn't a house either, and so we have to think about everybody having safe and secure housing to the point where it's affordable within their own income, right? So if you make $1,000 a month, your housing can only cost $300, and that's unachievable for so many people in our community. I'm proud of what we've done, and there's so much more to do. I still get frustrated by the town we live in and the size of the government facilities. I mean, the lobbies are bigger than my house. The lights are on 24/7. What can we do to use those places so people are at least out of the weather, whether it's hot or cold? The things we are doing are moving in the right direction. Interfaith Works is building 2 new shelters with the city's help. We're expanding the family shelter capacity at Family Support Center. The scattered site conversation is the most important one to me right now, because we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have to meet people where they are, and that's the only way that we'll be successful in. And what I like to say is getting them to a point where they cannot be in fight or flight mode, where they can think proactively about what they're going to do the next day. And if you're just scraping things together to make sure you have something in your belly before you go to bed, you can't do that. And it's a really complex challenge. I also think it's really important that we acknowledge that it's going to be nearly impossible for Olympia to get out of this alone. We have to have major federal and state intervention, and we'll keep whittling away at it as we go.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Gosh, I think you almost took the words out of my mouth. Outrage is also a good word. I feel, because I've been homeless, it really hits home to me when I look at my kids and drive past the encampments. I remember being homeless, and I feel a sense of urgency to help and to take action, to get in motion or stay in motion, actually. And I think that, identifying the wraparound services that are needed is so important, and that's exactly what I'll try to do. Pop-up sites for service providers to be at the encampments to identify the barriers to houselessness is really important. We can say all day long why we think somebody's homeless, but why are they homeless? We need to talk to them. They need to be in that conversation. They need to state themselves what the issue is. It's hard to be in a service, substance abuse treatment, for example, if you don't have a roof over your head, a stable, secure roof over your head. You can't be in the same elements you were in before and be successful. It's hard to go to school. We have a lot of youth out there. It's hard to go to school when you don't have clean clothes. And so one thing I would like to invest my time in is looking at the buildings or looking at resources that are already in existence. I know things are getting built, and I know that things are in the works, but let's use what we have too, and get people out of the elements and sheltered. I mean, that's what I've been reading is the first step in decreasing homelessness is getting people off, getting them sheltered. So utilizing some buildings that are possibly empty or just have space. That's it.
Thank you.
May need to use the 20-second warning with this one.
That's fair.
And I'll start with the second part first. So our One Community Plan talks about how sometimes sweeps are necessary and that they should be done in a way that minimizes the potential for re-traumatization. So as a mental health counselor in training, I have many thoughts about that, but I want to hone in on the word trauma, because we know that being unhoused has a lot of trauma that comes with it, trauma that can impact decision making, that can impact having stable relationships, that can impact meeting personal goals like sobriety, right? And so I think that we need to, when we're talking about diminishing homelessness, go to the root and talk about how can we, in the moment, immediately reduce trauma for unhoused people in our community. And I say by providing services. And the kind of services I'm thinking about, of course, are public-private partnerships that give people access to food, that give them access to hygiene products like pads and tampons, that the city makes sure that there's sanitation services like porta potties and garbage service. And I had the experience of cleaning up, helping folk clean up the Deschutes encampment and seeing overflowing porta potties and dumpsters, and then 2 days later being told by someone in local government that that encampment was being adequately serviced. So I applaud the work of the Regional Housing Council, and I applaud the scattered site plan, and we have to make sure that there's not a disconnect between what's actually happening and what we're saying that we're doing. And in terms of how it makes me feel personally, I consider homelessness to be a humanitarian crisis. And so we have to strike and strike hard with every toolbox in our arsenal to make sure that we are treating our unhoused neighbors as residents of our community and meet their needs.
Thank you.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is that poster about the Golden Rule. And I think that every faith community that's part of Interfaith Works has a version of treat others as you'd like to be treated yourself. And it's clearly still an aspirational goal, because we sure the heck aren't doing it now. A lot of my feelings come from knowing people who are street dependent, with various challenges that make that the best place for them, and unhoused folks, and knowing that they have stories, that they have favorite flavors of ice cream, that they have a mom, that drives a lot of my feelings. They're people, and a place where I've been able to channel a lot of those feelings is my family's been part of First Christian Church downtown, and I kind of feel like we've been a community that says yes in a city that says maybe. And the last thing on sort of the values and the feeling part is that I really firmly believe that we have the abundance and we have the knowledge to house everybody and feed everybody. And if that's true, then it's a choice. It's an actual choice to have winners and losers and have folks unhoused. I'm glad for the work, and I see that one of the proudest accomplishments of the last few years of our council is sort of institutionalizing a human service response within the city, bringing employees in, pivoting the focus. But I'll also say that it's all aimed at a Band-Aid. It's all aimed at addressing the symptoms, and we're still not getting to basic needs, housing and health care for everybody. So, gotcha.
So I would say that, you know, when I first arrived here in Washington, I had never seen such visible homelessness before. And it was something that was very surprising to me. And I immediately felt empathy. It was the first thing I felt. And I remember just thinking, okay, I'm giving out dollars. I am taking people to get something to eat. We are taking our Thanksgiving Day leftovers and giving it to people in camps. What else could I do? And that was really one of the issues that really drove me to run, was homelessness. And you know, I think about a lot of families actually, and how many people are not very far off from being in that situation. And so I encourage people to see themselves in our homeless residents, and perhaps, you know, that will move us to act. And I think that as a city, the city has been incredibly just resourceful and have come up with very creative ways to address the issue. But I think that local governments are incredibly restrained and they have limitations in the budget for what we can do. And I think we need the governments that have the larger budgets to prioritize homelessness and housing affordability. The county, the state, and the federal government. And I intend to continue to advocate and lobby those governments to put more dollars into addressing this need for our community.
Thank you.
I'm assuming it's good for me to go. Quite a few years ago, I learned, and this statement has stayed with me. Walking through the city of Seattle and the streets of Seattle, we walked around an alcove where there was a couple people camping, and my friend looked at me and she said, "Lisa, 10 seconds." And I'm like, "What's 10 seconds?" And she goes, 10 seconds between you and that person, you being that person sitting in that alcove, trying to figure out where you're going to get your food and how you're going to stay dry tonight." Those words have stayed with me, along with my grandfather's words, which I said in the beginning, that you have to leave this better. So every time I see someone who's homeless or have toured some of the camps as a city council member, it breaks my heart. It's a responsibility of our government. It's a right in my mind. It should have been in the Declaration of Independence, that housing is a right. Everybody should have the right. When I was elected the first time in 2017, it was a discussion of, do we sweep or do we actually take this problem on? I felt like the people who were saying sweep were trying to make these people disappear. You cannot make people disappear. So I am proud of some of the actions we've done in the city. Our One Community Plan, watching our community wrestle as a community to come up with this plan. And I'm very proud of the actions we can potentially do in it. Now that the pandemic's over, some of them are going to be possible. We have continued to work on others. The scattered sites, everything else. But unless we work on a few other things, we will not solve homelessness. The cost of housing, getting livable wages, and making sure we stabilize those who are renting, which are 54% of the people in Olympia. So we need to do those things to make sure that we continue the work of the One Community Plan and these things.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Homelessness is the reason I'm running for council. I live in the epicenter of the problem in Olympia right now. I have at least 200 homeless people living in a 1-mile radius of my house. I am outraged at the moral failure of the policies that led to this crisis. 87% of Olympians agree that the current policies are not working and we need a new direction. Compassionate policy comes from dispassionate analysis. We need metrics for success. I will bring the heart of compassion to Olympia, but also the brain of analyzing what is wrong and what needs to be fixed. I'm going to have a relentless focus on affordable housing and homelessness. I want to increase stock and repurpose existing stock more efficiently, looking at co-housing and boarding houses as an option. I have a target that you should be able to get a locked private room in Olympia for $500 and a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,000. I'd like to set up a universal application program to ease the cost burden on renters and the risk to landlords, as well as supporting co-housing programs. I've watched our city and county fail for 3 years to stand up an RV camp. It's time to explore privatized urban campsites to serve these people. We need to be honest about the street subculture and the challenges of serving that population. Right now, we're condemning them to a lifetime of homelessness. They're adapting to life on the street, and the longer they're out there, the harder it is for them to transition to housing. Finally, I want to switch from a survival mindset to a growth mindset. I want to inspire people that they can do better. There is compassion in boundaries, dignity in reciprocal relationships, and integrity in personal agency. Strong individuals make for strong communities.
Thank you.
First of all, I think it's heartbreaking that there are people in our community that are living the way that many of our homeless are. As Wendy mentioned earlier, they are someone's family. I would like to see some of the money that's been dedicated to the housing fund and some of the federal money that's coming down the pike as part of the COVID rebuild be dedicated to rent assistance so that we can keep more people who are currently housed on the verge of becoming unhoused in their homes. And this just makes a lot of sense to me because strictly from a dollars and cents perspective, it's got to be less expensive than the money we spent trying to treat those that are already homeless. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the question is, how does it make me feel? Like Spence just said, it makes me very sad. One, growing up here, I spent my teen years downtown hanging out, and my kids who are 19 and 17 just don't come downtown anymore. Why? Because people don't feel safe down here. Candy mentioned the survey, 77% of people don't feel safe downtown at night. And I want my kids to have the kind of childhood that I have. So that makes me sad. It makes me sad also that people have to live like that because I think it's not compassionate. I've had addiction in my family. My ex was an addict. I did 3 years in Al-Anon, and I think there's a difference between having compassion and being codependent. I think currently right now the council is codependent, and we are not doing the homeless people a service. We need to get these people to services. There are, I think, different groups of people. There's mentally ill, there's veterans, there's families with children. There are different groups. You can't just lump them into they're all addicts or they're all mentally ill. There are very diverse groups within those camps, and I think we need to start reaching out to these people and getting them services. There are services that are here, but they're way underutilized. I come from a place of community court, drug court. When I made a call about community court, I asked them how many services were available, and they told me there's 27 right now. When I made the phone call, there was 50 people involved in those services, and I said, well, that's a pretty low number, and they said 1,000 could be taken. So we need to start getting those people to those services and really utilizing those services.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, of course, hearing this and seeing it personally makes me very sad, and I know we can do better. I believe many are living in conditions that are inhumane, and although I do not have all the answers, the City of Olympia, I do know that the City of Olympia cannot solve all of the world's problems, but we must focus on the things that we can do. We cannot fix years of broken systems and failed efforts at every level of government overnight, but we can do better. We can set good examples and lead, and we need some help. We need more collaboration with local jurisdictions, including Thurston County, other cities, and the state. I have a good amount of experience working in an intergovernmental way, and this type of experience is necessary. Specifically, I would advocate for programs that prevent homelessness in the first place, and for services that help existing homeless people. I recommend and support policies that increase the supply of housing. I would work with other governments on a regional plan for mitigation sites and more housing, formulate a city budget that provides adequate resources to both crisis response specialists and first responders, and transition those in existing camps to housing or mitigation in sites that in areas that make more sense for service delivery, environmental protection, and health and safety. And I would also like to maintain a reasonable level of public safety, and most of all, communicate a message of hope that shows that we are a compassionate community looking to solve problems. I've been studying the One Community Plan and appreciate all the work that went into it, and would like to see those plans laid out come to fruition in a way that is transparent and keeps the public informed of the action and progress. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I get the question one more time?
Yes, definitely. There are well over 1,000 residents of Thurston County who have no roof over their head every night. They are sleeping in doorways, wooded areas, and places without basic necessities for human survival. Two-part question. When you hear this, how does this make you feel personally? And what actions will you take to decrease homelessness in your first term as Olympia City Council member?
I like that you said first term because I plan on being there for a while. But the way it makes me feel is it feels horrible. It feels disgusting. It feels like I need to do something. I want to do something. So I did do something. I've helped 2 people out of homeless situations. I've invited a drug addict into my house through his recovery as he got out of Department of Corrections custody. So I took action on my own to make a difference, to help that person. But what was different is that person came to the table too with a little something, a little want to and edge on his house. But building that personal relationship. And what I see is a lot of people out there who don't have a network. I relied, living 19 years overseas without a family, I relied on my friends and my coworkers. We have groups that don't have a social network, or the social network that has been built in these camps is not a healthy one. It's one that continues to support addictive behaviors, support other things. We need to get people out, get them integrated into our communities because they feel, I empathize with them. I'm not apathetic about this. I think we should use empathy and put ourselves in their shoes. What would it feel like to feel ostracized from the rest of community? And so we need to get them in. They need to do their part and come to the table as well. Absolutely. But I think offering the services and showing compassion, showing love for that person and reaching out to them. Hey, we want to help you. We want you to use these services. That's how we have to approach this. I think the second thing we need to look at is our policies. Set a clear understanding of what is expected if somebody were to migrate to Olympia for resources. We've seen the population grow in our county from 200 a few years ago to 1,000 now. So the policies we set, are they making it attractive? Because labor statistics tells us people are smart and migrate for goods and resources. So we need to be smart about the policies we enact and the expectations of people coming to our community because they owe something back just like all of us owe something back to our community.
Thank you.
Thanks.